And our special focus at this hour, well, the Karnataka government is considering a 2% cess on movie tickets and OTT subscription fees to support cinema and cultural artists. This cess will apply to cinema tickets, OTT subscription fees and all related such revenue streams. Now remember, this is a contentious move because the opposition in the state, the BJP, has said that this is extremely burdensome. In fact, this has also sparked sharp responses from, common folks as well, including people from within the industry. What we are asking on the show this evening is taxing the common man the only solution, given the fact that the common man is already reeling under inflationary pressures and there's everything that is heavily taxed. In fact, the common man, Indians across sectors are actually looking forward to some sort of tax relief, tax cuts in the upcoming budget. But the Karnataka government now mulling over a 2% cess on OTT subscription fees and cinema tickets. And this bill, remember, is now with the cabinet, and the Karnataka government says the bill has been proposed to, in a sense, create funds for artists and people within the entertainment industry. But the larger question here is taxing the middle class the only solution, especially when it comes to platforms like the OTT, which are widely consumed. But the fact here is, of course, that the Karnataka government is mulling over this, and the proposal is with the cabinet. And joining me this evening, Murtaza Ali Khan, a film critic. Thanks very much, sir, for joining us on the show this evening. I'll go across to you. But first, let me go across to our first caller on the show this evening. Balasubramaniam is joining us from Chennai. Go ahead, sir, and tell us what your opinions are as far as this proposal by the Karnataka government is concerned.
See, basically, it should be welcome if it is going to benefit to the artists and other things. And it's only 2% cess on the OTT and movie tickets. If it is going to helpful to the artists of the industry, then it is definitely welcome to that. So
that's an interesting point you're making, that if it benefits people from the industry, whether it's technicians, junior artists, or of course artists across the board, then this is a welcome move. But don't you think this will ultimately affect the common man? The subscriptions will take a hit as well?
Yeah, subscriptions are really take a hit. It is only 2%. The subscription charges are hardly about 100, 200, 300 like that. That only 6 rupees. But the other thing is that actually if it is, there are many artists in the industry, they have not been taken care at all. So they are basically, we hear that many artists in the industry, they even strive for the daily livelihood kind of the thing. So they have to be helped. So being an entertainment, people, those who are entertaining public, they also have to be looked at. So people, those who are entertaining us, we are reciprocating by giving them something. This is good.
Right, Mr. Balasubramaniam, thanks very much for joining us with your views there. Murtaza Ali Khan, film critic, continues to be with us. Mr. Khan, what is your opinion as somebody who I'm assuming consumes content on OTT platforms a lot as a film critic? How do you look at this move or this proposal of the Karnataka government to impose a 2% tax on OTT subscription fees?
See, prima facie, the intentions do look, noble, but at the same time, I find it to be, absolutely ludicrous. Because there are so many state subjects, and if they really want to benefit the artists and technicians, they could have easily taken some money out of the already, the tax and other benefits that they are collecting from the tax-paying citizen. And a small percentage of that amount could have been used for this purpose. But to outrageously and to explicitly target the industry at a time when already, the entertainment industry has been suffering. Let's not forget that the entertainment taxes were actually imposed by the British. And they were imposed because the British didn't want, the Indians to come up with content which was, targeting the British Empire. So we have come a long way from that time, and now we have reached a time wherein we need to completely have a laissez-faire sort of an environment where it's an absolutely free market, and by unnecessarily imposing, a tax of 2%, a cess of 2% on the entertainment industry, I think this is actually hampering the industry. Yes, you are saying that you want to benefit the artists, you want to benefit the technicians, the intentions are there, but there are n number of ways of benefiting the industry, benefiting the technicians. This way, the means is actually not right. And I personally feel that this can have a detrimental effect on the already dampened industry. We have seen in the recent times that there has been a great decline in terms of the box office numbers, and the OTT also is not doing exceptionally well. A lot of the OTT platforms are also going through a tough time in keeping the subscribers. So at a time when we need to push the industry, at a time we need to help the industry grow its numbers, this is actually a very detrimental step, the way I look at it.
So there can be more solutions, is what you're saying. Taxing the common man is not the only solution, is what you're saying. But how does it affect the business? You know, as far as
List right now.
yes, but as far as the film industry is concerned, we are seeing that more and more filmmakers, production houses are now moving from the silver screen to OTT platforms, and they're heavily relying on OTT platforms, even looking at it as a lucrative medium. So for them, a 2% cess, how do you see people from within the industry viewing this move?
See, as I have already told you, that it's a very noble intention. There are artists out there who, are not making as much money as some
Yes,
of the
and I
other
understand
fortunate
that.
ones.
But if subscriptions will take a beating, if subscriptions will be affected, then that's not good news entirely for even people within the industry.
Ultimately, you have to look at the bigger picture. See, nowadays we are living in an age of competition, and people anyway are, struggling a lot, in order to grab the subscribers. Every platform is suffering. We have seen, that it's difficult to maintain the numbers. It's difficult to maintain the targets, and it's a global phenomena. It's not an Indian phenomena. It's a global phenomena. So at a time when you are already facing, a very difficult time, in terms of increasing the subscription base. Forget about increasing. You are finding it hard to retain your subscriber base. If at that point in time you want to build the end user, you want to put unnecessary additional burden on the end user, ultimately what it would do, somebody like me, somebody who belongs from a lower middle class background, would probably now think, okay, let's not have 5 different subscriptions. Let's just have one, or let's just have two. So maybe I'll have one for sports, because if I'm a sports lover, then I will need my daily dose of sports. And then maybe I'll have one more. But what will happen now is that I will think that let's do away with more subscriptions that I have and only stick to just 2, 3. So this is going to become a big challenge in the days to come, as we'll see more and more users, trying to look into their pockets. Are they deep enough? Are they deep enough to, match the increasing rates, the increasing tariffs? And if no, then they will have to take a call and they will move away. Let's go back to the days of the set-top box. Remember, there used to be outrageous cable charges. And that's when the Supreme Court came up with the guideline that, okay, let's put an amount of 500 rupees. You can't go beyond that. I think we have reached a similar times now in the OTT digital arena, when you need to put a higher bracket. How much burden do you want to put on the end user? They will only be able to pay so much, on a monthly basis. So I just want to remind you about the set-top box days, when the set-top box was brought in, because the cable channels and all these people were imposing unnecessary charges on the end user. And the Supreme Court had to come in and they had to say that, okay, now pay-per-view is going to come. You want 5 channels, just pay for 5 channels. I think OTT is also now going a similar direction. There are hundreds of options available, and the end user has to make its choice. And since the price is ultimately going to be borne by him, the excessive costs are going to be borne by them.
Okay, so as you say, the intention seems to be right, but there are other solutions as well. Dr. Surya Narayan is joining us from Chennai. A caller is with us. Dr. Surya Narayan, go ahead.
Actually, the Karnataka action is, in fact, those people who are seeing the cinemas are poor and middle class. So the Congress always speak against middle class, and they always support rich people. See, the OTT is easy and cost effective and economical to see by middle class people. But this decision of the Karnataka government is against public. What they told before the election, they told something and they follow something against. They against national government, they against Indian government. That's why that the Congress government created a separate flag for Karnataka. So this move will definitely affect the public, the general public, and this is not a way to get, because lot of amount can be got through illegal liquors and through mines and all they can do. The crores and crores of sands from Kaveri River is taken illegally. The Karnataka government, instead of charging 2% cess, can charge can take over the entire sand procurement and sand sale. It will definitely give against the middle class, we can say commercial agents. So this government is anti-public, anti-India, and this will definitely affect the socio-economic development of the country because the people want some joy through
just
OTT.
for the sake of arguing from the other side, don't you think that it's going too far to say that the government is anti-public or anti-India, as you say? It's just a 2% tax, many would say. I'm just arguing from the other side for the sake of it. But how would you respond to those people who would say that this is just a marginal tax? And, you know, generally, if you look at OTT subscribers as well, they are mostly, from, say, the salaried class or the middle class, people who can afford subscriptions.
Exactly. You are absolutely correct. See, I do agree it is a marginal increase. But Karnataka government why they give sand mafias to rule the Kaveri water and other river sand? See, they can take over the entire sand procurement and sell to builders and public. So there they can make more than 1,000 crores money and they can use it. But they are not doing. They simply do whoever pay this. You are exactly correct. The salaried people who don't have time to go to cinema and they see it from the mobile, it is not necessary. See, the government should be Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Saath. This is not a government for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas.
Okay.
This government is only charging the salaried people and make a crocodile tear that they are for middle class.
Right. Dr. Suryanarayan, thanks very much for joining us on the show this evening. You have touched upon various topics which perhaps many would say are not really related to the issue at hand, which is the entertainment cess debate. But our guest, Murtaza Ali Khan, continues to be with us. Mr. Khan, I just want to also look at it from the point of view of OTT regulation, because the OTT platforms have been hailed as the sort of free and independent, and there's some sort of great freedom that comes with these OTT platforms. Do you see that this increased interest in regulating, taxing OTT platforms is detrimental to the very motive with which these OTT platforms have come about, in a sense to sort of act as alternatives to mainstream cinema?
See, they were supposed to democratize the entertainment space,
exactly.
and they have done that by leaps and bounds. But by imposing such arbitrary charges, you are really demoralizing them. You are really, pushing them to a point wherein they will not be, able to enjoy the kind of freedom, the kind of democracy that it is supposed to be, known for. Let me give you an example. I agree, okay, let's agree that the middle class is willing to pay or the lower middle class is willing to pay. Why don't you make it optional? If the government really wants to portray it as this welfare scheme wherein the artist will benefit, let's give the choice to the end user. Let's make it optional and let the viewers, let the end user decide that, okay, there is a 2% cess which you want to donate,
So that's a very interesting point you're making, that it could be made optional, and perhaps these are certain aspects that the government could look at. That's an interesting point there, Mr. Khan.
Why force
I'll have to interrupt you there because Venkat Raman, another caller, is joining us from Bengaluru. Yes, Mr. Venkat Raman, go ahead.
Well, this is what you get for electing a Congress government, which is just doling out taxpayers' money left, right and center, and there is no end to this. The next target, according to the state government, which will not come out in the news, is the water connections for new houses. The pro rata charge which is there is proposed to be hiked. So you are hiking everything. You just want money from the taxpayers and you want to drain their pockets to fill your pockets. This is what the Congress government is doing.
So you feel that ultimately it's a middle class that's being affected by the price hikes and, of course, this kind of taxation?
I mean, you're taking from one hand and giving less than half of it to the other hand. In fact, you're giving just a small percentage to the other hand.
Okay, so interesting point there. I think that is really the larger message that is coming out of this debate, that as Mr. Murtaza Ali Khan also pointed out, that there are various other ways of creating funds like these, and as you said, it could be made optional as well. So that is something that certainly the Karnataka government can look at, Mr. Murtaza.
And my concern is that, okay, now that you have put this arbitrary amount of 2%, it could have been 1%, it could have been 0.5%, that could have actually, or maybe you could have given the choice to the people that, between 0.5% and 2%, it's your choice. You decide. It's going to go to the artist. Now, okay, you have it in place. Now I want to ask that who's going to ensure that all of this money that gets collected, it goes to the right channels? Who's going to ensure that the people who really deserve it, they get the benefit out of it? So there has to be a body, and I don't really believe in these arbitrary government bodies. There has to be somebody from the industry, people who actually can oversee everything so that there is complete transparency.
So perhaps all stakeholders must be consulted as well. I'm sorry to cut you off there because we have another caller joining us on the show. Naresh Raina is joining us from Gurugram. Yes, Mr. Raina, go ahead. What do you think of this this move by the Karnataka government?
I think the way the government has, declared that they have to, provide so many facilities to the people. So I think this 2% cess is not too much, because this is actually applicable to the people who are entertaining, who have the money to spend on the entertainment. So I think 2% on this level of, this kind of people, I don't think that it is very difficult and it can be managed, since the government have to actually facilitate other facilities which they have promised for the people. So I think that there should not any problem of this 2% cess on OTT.
So you are saying that those who want to consume content on OTT, they will be willing to pay this amount, given the fact that, this is, as you said, that these are mostly people who have the money to spend on, recreational activities.
Exactly. So 2%, I don't think, for example, 1,000 if anybody is paying for the month, so if he has to pay 2% on that, so I don't think that it will be very difficult for them to pay.
All right, Mr. Raina, thanks very much for joining us with your opinions there. So, Murtaza Sahab, it's a debate that is, of course, still taking shape in a sense, because one doesn't really know whether the government will actually go ahead and impose that 2% cess. But as many of them are pointing out, those who want to consume content on OTT will come to OTT platforms, and perhaps the 2% cess will not deter them from coming to OTT platforms.
First and foremost, they should, as we were discussing earlier also, they need to consult all the stakeholders involved. People from the industry should also be party to this, and then, this decision should be taken that, okay, if we really want to increase it by 2% or 1% or 0.5% or whatever, that they haven't done so far. They cannot just impose it in an arbitrary manner. And once it's decided that, okay, we want this 2% cess to be there, then who's going to ensure that this money that gets collected actually will go to the right channels? So for that, we need somebody from the industry to supervise this transition. We don't want this money to end up, in some arbitrary manner. It has to go to the right person at the right time. Otherwise, there is no point. I work with a lot of, cultural embassies, and I talk to a lot of people, working in the West. All the time, the money is ensured that it goes to the right people. Even during the pandemic, a lot of money in the cultural spaces were collected, and taxpayers happily paid that money, as long as they were aware that the money is going to the right persons. They are going to the right people. But in India, often we have seen that there is little accountability when it comes to such arbitrary decision making, particularly at the state level we have seen. So for that, I think we need a greater accountability. There has to be different stakeholders consulted, and once a decision is taken, somebody has to supervise it so that there is absolute transparency. Then happily, I'm sure, people who are willing to pay, they'll be happily able to pay, as long as they know that the right person, the deserving person, is getting the benefit out of it.
All right. So interesting point there, that that is also something that perhaps the government will have to monitor. But Shankar is joining us from Ghaziabad. Yes, Shankar, go ahead. What do you think of this proposal?
Namaskar ji.
Namaskar.
See, I see that central government should declare financial emergency if possible. Okay. Number two, Election Commission or Finance Commission control the drama of soap and political soup. Number 3, yesterday reservation problem, today tax problem, tax problem. Tomorrow they will tax on central institutions, the opposition government. What is news? Boston Consulting Group. Other type of petroleum cess. These are the points I want to say. Thank you very much.
All right, Shankar, thanks very much for joining us on the show this evening, and thanks very much, Murtaza Ali Khan, as well, for all that perspective that you brought to the story. So this is, of course, has become a raging debate. It's been discussed and debated in the past as well. The central government has also mulled over, introducing taxation as far as OTT platforms are concerned. Remains to be seen how this is taken forward, but certainly a contentious move there by the Karnataka government. And with that, we'll take a short break now, but news continues on the other side.